The people united
will never be defeated.
The people united
Will never be defeated.
The people united
Will never be defeated.
We want to be able to show them who we are. And we are peaceful. We are love. I'm tired of actually saying that we are peaceful and non-violent. We meet the violence from them. This is the gaslighting of the media. Travelers' lives matter!
Travelers' lives matter.
Women's lives matter!
Women's lives matter.
Boris Johnson's always man. Boris Johnson's always man. Boris Johnson's always man. Oh, you know what? Are you ready to take the streets? So there's a beautiful person.
He stopped the whole thing by being rude to me. I'm taking that seriously, and I am.
Unemployment and inflation are not caused by immigration. Bullshit! Come off it! The enemy is profit! Unemployment and inflation are not caused by immigration. Bullshit! Come off it! The enemy is profit!
We are going home. Janja we do gaga. We are going home. We are going home. We are going home. Janja we do gaga. We are
looking at more stop and search without suspicion and anti-protest orders copied and pasted from ASBOs. My friends, all these powers we know will be used to attack some people and to protect others. So just you remember the shameful policing of the Sarah Everard Vigil. And we won't forget the shameless partying in number 10 Downing Street while millions stayed indoors and hundreds of thousands died of COVID.
To come and say what they want to say. So firstly, on the 14th of September 2021, the Police Crimes and Sentencing and Courts Bill began the stage of its progress through Parliament, which requires discussion and scrutiny by the House of Lords. This stage is due to conclude next week. As we all know, the bill attacks the right to protest. It also contains a range of measures which will make life
Continuing and continuing. It's horrendous. It's a breach of human rights. But there's also an attack on newer migrants coming into the UK who are told that they're coming here to steal jobs, to steal housing, to pander to the far right and seek to divide communities and blame and point the finger at migrant communities and migrant workers who help the economy running. The country would fall apart if it wasn't for migrant labour in the UK. And it's done to hide the lies of the government, the austerity programme that's gone on for over 10 years, which actually has deepened with coronavirus and the pandemic. So all of those attacks on poor communities, working class communities, black communities, trade unions have increased. So we must resist both of these bills. Both of these bills attack all of us, and whilst they disproportionately impact on some of us more than others, they disproportionately impact on black and brown and migrant communities. When they're finished coming for me and my family and my community, they'll be coming for you too. So my freedom is tied up in your freedom. And we can't allow ourselves to be divided. We can't allow ourselves to look and say, it's about those people over there, it's not affecting us, so it doesn't matter. It does matter. We are all human beings, and our human rights are intertwined. And if the human rights of some of us are taken away, be sure that the human rights
of the next lot of people are going to be under attack after. This country has become an apartheid-like state, a racist state, and we must resist and oppose that with every breath that we take, with every bone in our body. We must resist these attacks on our communities. We must fight for our human rights. We must fight for equality. We must fight against racism. We must fight against fascism. And we must fight for migrant rights and refugee rights. Support all of our campaigns. Stand with us. Speak out, because when you're on the receiving end of racism and attacks, it can be very difficult to have to fight that fight alone.
I know that a lot of people may not see what I do behind the scenes, but I'm always working alongside you guys. I will never stop fighting for our rights. Before the vigil, I was just a student, I wasn't an activist, I didn't do things like this, I didn't go to protests. And because of that, when I had interviews, I would say, we need to direct it away from the police. I didn't know what I was talking about at all. I was in a white privilege bubble, I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't listen to the women around me who had been telling me.
Congratulations, you won the revolution. I declare you all free men and women walking. We got this one and more, decentralized finance. Oh yeah, take away the money and they got nothing, dollar, dollar, dollar. I can declare you all free men and women walking, yeah. Congratulations, you won the revolution. Don't pay rent to the man, pay it into decentralized finance. D-apps, take away the money stream and we all own this planet equally. How can you have own land on this beautiful blue and green thing? I can prove it in a court of law that you can't own anything because we're all born equally onto this planet, yeah? So we've got this. We've already won. Take away the money, we can put it into decentralized finance and we'll split that dollar between everyone on the planet, getting rid of poverty. What we got to do is automate everything because we're really free. No countries, no borders. Are you with me? Your government is like a dying tiger. Its throat's been slit, blood all over the floor. It's reaching out with its last dying claw, trying to bring in new laws and more. Even the police don't want to support it. They're embarrassed. They know that Boris is what? I don't know, but you're free men and women walking. Just everyone free party people taking over one party at a time. Well done. Your government is like a dying tiger. It's got its throat slit, blood all over the floor. It's reaching out with its last claw, trying to bring in loads of laws, but we know there is no law apart from love and compassion. And my house, it's your house, it's your house, it's mine. You can come into my bedroom, you can even go in my top bedroom drawer. There's stuff in there from 1984, yeah? It's my house, it's your house, it's your house, it's mine. We all own this earth equally. Well done, we've done it.
Decolonize. 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 We don't want your blood money. Wanna save the world, honey. Free, free, free Palestine. 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 Do you think you know what speaker we got next?
And I'm delighted to be here as the director of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign to bring our voice and our solidarity to this demonstration. Now, the police bill and the nationality and borders bill are foul, and freedoms and rights that belong to us individually and collectively are only ever won through protests. And those committed to sustaining democracy and freedom will safeguard and facilitate protests, not seek to suppress and outlaw it. And this government, this pernicious government, not only wants to suppress protests, it wants to stoke division and hatred. It wants to divide us one from the other. The Nationality and Borders Bill does not start by asking the question, what must be done to help those who are driven from their homes by force, by hardship and by war. It starts by asking the question, what can we do to make them go somewhere else? to be someone else's responsibility and someone else's problem. And it starts with the unspoken question, what can we do to stop more black and brown people arriving on our shores, in our streets and in our towns? And it seeks to divide us into those who enjoy full citizenship rights and have the security that those rights will never be taken away, and others, second-class citizens, for whom citizenship is a privilege and not a right. Now, I am the son of a Palestinian father, born in Palestine, who saw his parents expelled from their homes and driven into exile during the Nakba of 1948, who moved to the UK after meeting my English-born mother. Now, if my father were alive today, he would be one of those whose citizenship would be second class, a privilege, not a right, conditional upon his good conduct, whilst my white English-born mother, if she were alive, would have full rights and status. And there is another pernicious piece of law that the Tories are planning to introduce, a law, the so-called anti-BDS law, that it will make it illegal for local councils and universities to divest from companies that are complicit in violations of international law and human rights, including those complicit in supporting Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people. And we must come together as well to oppose that law. So finally, today, we say no to the policing bill, no to the Nationality and Borders bill, no to the upcoming anti-BDS bill, no to the politics that sustains systems of injustice, that destroys the planet in favour of corporate profit, that sustains Israel's system of apartheid, that undermines respect for international law and human rights. Yes to freedom, yes to justice, yes to the principles of solidarity that say we stand always with the oppressed and never with the oppressor. And yes, 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 yes to a free Palestine. Kill the bill.
Anyway, Uncle Acid has done so much work around poll tax, anti-racist, Jubilee 2000, climate justice, stop the war. I could keep going on, so I need you to show some love.
I want to bring you solidarity greetings first from War on One, but also from our partners all around the world, from the Indian farmers fighting against the corporate control of their food, from Palestinians resisting Israeli apartheid and occupation, from indigenous communities fighting for their land from Canada to Brazil, and workers fighting for the right to housing and living wages from South Africa to Brazil. And their message they've asked me to give to you is that this politics of racism, of walls and fences, of authoritarianism is being rolled out all around the world. And in every corner of the world, it's being resisted. And they have said that the reason they harass us, the reason they criminalize us, imprison us and even kill us is because they fear us. The powerful have always feared people power, and they have feared our call for justice and that we are the ones who will change this world. Friends, you've heard from previous speakers that we are facing the biggest attack on our human rights and civil liberties in this country. From the police bill, the borders bill, the attack on the right to judicial review, the ID voting bill, the rolling back of the Human Rights Act and our right to boycott. Across the board, this is one of the most authoritarian attempts to roll back our rights. But you know what? This fight isn't going to be won or lost in that building over there. It's going to be won or lost by us on the streets in our organising. Because these rights were never given to us by the powerful. These are rights that we have seized from their clammy hands through our organising. And so, whilst this government talks about protecting the statues of slavers because it's a representation of British history, we are the true representatives of British history. Of a history of the working class that goes all the way back from the peasant revolt to the levellers and diggers, from the general strike to the suffragettes, from Kinder Scout to the black community. And I want to say I grew up in the 70s and 80s when my community, we were fighting for the right to live free from attack. When we took to the streets against racist violence, against police violence, against sus laws. And it was our struggles on the streets that stopped the racists and the far right. And those rights we paid for with blood on the streets. That's who fought for those rights, who won those rights. They were not granted there in Parliament. We are the ones that changed this country. Our struggle changed this country. And there's always been one slogan that has united our communities and our movements. No justice, no peace. And so we have to send a very simple message. We can send a very simple message to this government. If they really want to stop us protesting, if they really want to stop that, you know what they can do? They can stop sacrificing millions of the poorest black, brown and indigenous people so big fossil fuel companies can continue to pollute. They can stop the exploitation of workers so fat cat corporations can amass more profits. They can stop their racism and xenophobia and the demonisation of migrants. They can protect the black community and Roma community's right to live free from attack. And as Ben said, they can stop arming despotic and authoritarian regimes from Israel to Saudi Arabia, so we don't have to boycott, divest and sanction them. So friends, I'm going to end with one just message. Some of us with a bit more grey in our beards, we've been here before, we've seen these bills before, and we have only one message and only one solution. We have to go back and build bigger and stronger movements. We have to connect our movements. We have to build a movement of movements, and we have to remember that slogan from the trade union movement, that an injury to one is an injury to all. Solidarity.
I want you to give me so much love for Natalie Bennett from the Green Party, who used to be a councillor and now she's fighting for our voices. Show some love!
Well, hello, London! You're all still here, so very, very well done. But this isn't just happening in London, in Sheffield, in Manchester, in Bristol. And we've been saying how we all have to have solidarity and stick together. So let's celebrate celebrate everything that's happening around the country today to kill the bill. Now, I've got a hashtag I want you to use often because it happens often. And that hashtag is campaigning works. And you can use that today because on Friday, the Labour peers finally announced they were going to block some of the worst elements of this bill. And that happened because you fought and you won. Now it's going to be complicated. People sometimes ask me, what's it like to be in the House of Lords? And my answer is it's very, very strange. But watch on Monday, there's going to be 11 votes. And keep up the pressure, show you're watching, use social media to show that you want to kill as much of this bill on Monday as we possibly can. But the sad news is, and I do want to highlight this because it's so important, we have already in the House of Lords lost a really important issue. And that's part 4 of the bill that explicitly targets Gypsy, Roma and Traveller people. And that's an absolute disgrace. Now, I called a vote on that because I thought it was just too important to let pass without that vote. Now, I'm afraid that Labour whipped their peers to abstain. Now, there were 8 Labour peers who broke the whip. So what I'd say to all of you is keep up the pressure, keep talking about what this bill does to Gypsy, Roma and Traveller people and say that's not acceptable. I'm going to do something you won't expect. I'm going to quote Theresa May. And Theresa May, when asked why this bill was wrong, this is Theresa May, said, because we live in a democratic, free society. And that's why Theresa May says this bill's wrong. And if that's the case, it's very clear this bill is utterly, totally wrong, and we must kill this bill. Theresa May was wrong. Well, actually, Theresa May is wrong about lots of things. But she's wrong about the UK being a democracy. Because behind us there, Boris Johnson got 44% of the votes in 2019, and he got 100% of the power. So what we have to do, and there's lots of signs today here about democracy, we have to make the UK a democracy. We need a new constitution. And I have just got to say it's great to see so many signs against the Nationality and Borders Bill, because it's dreadful in its treatment of refugees, as other speakers have said. Let's say, we want to say refugees welcome. Refugees welcome. And it's also dreadful on people being able to lose their citizenship. Now, I've put down an amendment that says citizenship is a right that the government cannot take away. pressure everyone you know to back the amendment to say citizenship is a right. Now, there was a sign behind me, it's gone now, but it pointed out particularly for young people, and 200 people who work in mental health put out a letter today saying this bill is seeking to take away the initiative and the agency of young people. Well, I think I've got two final things to say. First of all, protest is not a crime. And secondly, we are not going to allow them to take away our agency, our power. We're going to take to the streets, keep taking to the streets, keep making noise. And we're going to kill the bill and make the UK a democracy.
When I say kill, you say the bill kill, kill. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Traveller Lives Matter.
Traveller Lives Matter.
When I say drive, you say to survive. Drive.
To survive.
Drive.
To survive.
Oh, Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn.
But give some love for the man who constantly fights, constantly puts young people's voices in the front, constantly tells the truth, and yet gets demonized by the media. So when I say free, you say the press. Free!
The press.
Free!
The press.
When I say free, you say the press. Free!
The press.
Free!
The press.
Give some love for Jeremy Corbyn!
Today, and thank you to all those that have organised not just this event but so many others all around the country, and thank you to those that organised events this morning in solidarity with those refugees who were stuck on the border between Belarus and Poland, dying in plain sight of the media, in plain sight of food and water they can't get. Isn't that a most disgusting view of the way in which the world treats so many refugees with such inhumanity? Now, I want to say a big thank you again to all of you for being here today and for the speeches that I've heard since I came. From Natalie, from Assad and from Ben and others. And they've all made a very strong case. Now, I could probably write the headlines in the media tomorrow. Well, they'll get confused about the numbers. Either there's 200 people here, or there's 2,000, or there's 20,000, or whatever number you care to choose, but it won't be the one the BBC reports, whatever that is. They're going to say irresponsible protesters blocked Parliament Square. Well, and down the road there's Party Central just over there, where behind the walls. But when the media decide to concentrate solely on one aspect of the government's behaviour and the Prime Minister's conduct, you ask yourself some questions. I'm not condoning anything that Johnson has done, and I'm not condoning the massive amounts of money that have been poured into dodgy companies during COVID, but I am supporting the health workers who've done so much to try and keep us safe during COVID. But my objection to Boris Johnson and his government is, yes, his behaviour, but actually what's far, far more serious is the amount of money that's been poured into failed track and trace systems, the way in which we're paying through the nose for vaccines that we paid for the research to be done, the way in which the private sector is being empowered, emboldened to take over our National Health Service, and the ignorance of the way in which the regulations have acted out against people, particularly causing so much mental health stress. What I'd also criticise this government for is the whole agenda behind Johnson. Now, it's very easy, and I've seen lots of memes and lots of films, and some are very funny about Johnson's behaviour and all the rest of it. But don't run away with the idea, just because you don't agree with or don't like somebody, that they're actually stupid or doing something through ignorance. No, they're not. There is a whole agenda here, and it's an agenda about disempowering people, empowering authority in the state, at the same time as a massive, and it is a massive, redistribution of wealth and power in favour of the powerful and the wealthiest. Over the past 2 years, the people that have become the wealthiest are the billionaires and the trillionaires and the mega-trillionaires. It's Amazon, it's Facebook, it's Google. It is all those distribution companies around the world. It's property speculation. It's all of those. And who's become worse off? Working class communities all over this country, working class communities in the USA and here, and the poorest people in the poorest countries that receive the least health care and the worst allocation of funds internationally for development purposes. It is a massive power grab by the richest and most powerful, not just in this country, but on a global scale. So bear that in mind when you look at the legislation that is now before Parliament. The Borders and Nationality Bill. For example, the Borders and Nationality Bill, which seeks to criminalise, yes, criminalise, doing what every single one of us in this square would do, that is saving life of somebody at risk at sea. The law of the sea is there for a purpose. It requires every person who is a seafarer to do everything they can to save life. This government criminalises people for trying to help refugees who are drowning in the English Channel. That is the depths to which they have sunk. And then the idea of removing nationality, the passport of anyone who may be eligible to apply for nationality somewhere else through one of their parents, as Ben was pointing out. That affects several million people in this country. So if the Home Secretary, or any Home Secretary, uses that power to remove nationality from somebody, there is no guarantee that some other country is going to offer them nationality. You might ask the question, why should they? And so we have the power given by Parliament to the Home Secretary to render several 100,000, if not millions of people, potentially stateless as a result of that. That is an unbelievably draconian power, which obviously has to be opposed. And the bill that brought most of you here today, I would imagine, is the police bill. And Natalie described very well the battle that she and other comrades, and there are some comrades in the House of Lords who are doing their best on this, but she knows, I know, you know, this bill is only going to be defeated by mass action all over the country and an understanding of what it means. Because if the right to protest is restricted, if you have to seek police permission to do anything, well, where does that lead to? it leads to every protest becoming a conflict about having the protest rather than what the protest is about. It effectively disempowers us all, puts us all on the back foot, and puts us all in a totally defensive mode. So we defend our NHS because we love our NHS, even though we know it's underfunded and under threat of privatisation. We defend the principle of local government services for the same reason. So we end up endlessly defending things instead of demanding things. And so, yes, like everyone here, I will defend the National Health Service, but I also want us to have a national care service so that we don't go through the pain of seeing our loved ones not properly cared for, and I want it publicly run, publicly owned and publicly accountable so that the staff are properly paid. And when I object to water companies discharging raw sewage into our rivers, which they did 400,000 times in England, I don't want to regulate the water companies. I want to shut them down and bring water back into accountable, democratic public ownership where we all have a say. And I'm getting a big look and a big stare at the minute from Auntie here. Touché. So I will just finish with this. As I said, this disempowers, and there's so many other things we talk about: public ownership, rights at work, decent wages, decent conditions. But I say this, it's all about our own empowerment. It's getting young people to join a trade union, however insecure their work is. It's getting people organised together. But this sense of disempowerment is designed to have a depressive effect, particularly on young people. Young people get a hard time. Over-tested, over-pressurised in school. Over-inspected, over-stressed in many ways. The mental health problems, particularly amongst secondary school and college students, is serious, and that comes about from that. And then, on leaving school, choices emerge for young people. Go to college, go to uni if you can get in, get an apprenticeship if you can get one, try and get a job. Insecure work, low pay, massive debt if you go to uni, massive debt that will follow you for a very long time, as that uncollectible debt is sold to debt collectors who will harass people for the rest of their lives trying to get that money out of them. And then move on, want somewhere to live, council housing insufficient, purchasing impossible, private rented sector the only option. Expensive, badly maintained, under-regulated, insecure. And so young people are faced with this prospect that somehow or other everything they get and do is less good or worse than their parents' or their grandparents' generation. I want us to be strong and thoughtful and confident enough to recognise that all over the world, young people have all the hopes, the enthusiasm, the imagination, the art, the music, the ideas, the science, the maths, and all the other things. They have that sense of determination. And they do not want to live in a divided, racist society. They support Black Lives Matter because it challenges that colonial history. They do not want to live in a world where we're perpetually about to go to war with somebody for something or other. Instead, they want to live in a world of peace where those resources can go for education, for health, for housing, for environmental sustainability, rather than war. And so, I finished because I've got a real serious look from Auntie down here. And I just finished by saying this. Thank you, because a protest, a demonstration gives people hope, gives people an opportunity, gives us that dream of what a better world will be. This square, this place has been the centre of protest. The suffragettes were here, the Chartists were here, and so many others were here. They're the ones that gave us what we've got. It's up to us to give the next generation what they haven't yet got, what we haven't got, but what we want them to have. Thank you very much.
In food banks, a Prime Minister who's so estranged from the truth he should probably have to pay child support. This government's entire tenure has been a complete and utter fucking defethel. And if you don't know what a defethel is, it's like a kerfuffle, but less unorganised and more corrupt. We're here for everyone's rights to protest, whether it's Extinction Rebellion, turning central London into rainbow rhythms, or whether it's anti-lockdown protesters turning central London into a petri dish for the new strain. That's our right, it's a parliamentary democracy. Apparently we invented it and we dropped bombs in other countries to spread it, I remember. It's all about right.
So who wants a revolution? Who wants a revolution? To all puppets in power and the drones that surround you, the real power is us. Don't make us remind you. 'Cause it all falls down when we stand up. Yeah. Sweet the sound of a building rush. You know it, get your fists up. There's more fists.